I think that worked pretty well. Awesome. Just testing out some videos and stuff like that. Let's go. All right. I'm not sure where Amir is. Probably got caught up doing something else, but we're still gonna get to work. So let's fetch and do this. I love programming in Flutter. I absolutely love it. Bookends. All right. Okay, so in our discussion last week with Amir, we went over let's go over to our bookends. We ended with the need to define some vocab. As soon as ClickUp loads. So we got our vocab. This is kind of step one for me, because I want to be able to find all this good stuff. All right, so first and foremost, we have bookend. I'm going to define this as a series of questionnaires that place the beginning, after, and t or time. That's a questionnaire. List of questions. That's just a questionnaire. List of questions or statements. This is a phrase. Question is a question. That's probably not super great. Let me see. Let me show my screen so you guys can see what I'm working on. It'll make more sense. Okay. So question is a question. Rating, choice, true, false, etc. False, response to question. Questions. We had two questions in previous questionnaires. In the same venue. Bookend with partially filled out. Specific. So questions have answers, bookends have responses. I think that makes sense. Ooh, Amir's here. I don't know if you can see me or hear me yet. But You there, Amir? I can't see you or hear you if you're speaking to me. There we go. He's here. Amir, what's up? I still can't hear you actually, but I can see you. Okay. All right. PC isn't happy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right. Woo! Let's go.
I know. It's been a day.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I got something I had to jump into like last second. Just got done running around.
Nice.
All right.
Well,
What do
welcome.
you wanna? Thank you.
Yeah.
Get started.
So right now I'm working on just the vocabulary that we left off with at the end of last week on
Okay.
Thursday. Just going through and giving myself a definition for each of these things so I can build it in code.
I went back and redid the data structure. Uh, it's it connects them now. It connects them. There's a unique ID for each bookend, which is a book start and a bookend. And I created a bookend is your start and your finish. So they're just two lists. They're interconnected, which I think satisfies kind of what you were looking for. I don't think. I mean, it covers it. The only thing I was a little confused on, and I think it was just maybe more of a note. There was like a relies on, but the relies on is implied because I created the relationship between the two, anyways. If that makes sense. I didn't know if you actually wanted the field relies on. I left it in there, but I don't see what purpose it actually serves if we've got them connected, anyways.
Okay. Yeah, so you were talking about the questions, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the question basically, I want to be able to tie a question to a previous answer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the relies on was meant to do, is just say, all right, we got a question. Here are 2 or 3 or just one question that I answered this morning that I want to inform the answer to the question now that I'm doing this evening. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So
Yeah.
that's the goal of the relies on, is it lets me, when I go to answer that question, I can show their previous answer to the question that it relied on within that bookend itself.
So my answer relies on question 1, for example.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
questionnaire 1.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we have questionnaire 1. That's our questionnaire that we fill out at the beginning of the day. Then we have questionnaire 2, and we fill it out at the end of the day. Question 1 in questionnaire 2 might rely on, or I want to show them the answer to like questions 1 and 2 in questionnaire 1. That was pretty concrete, I think.
It makes sense. I think the questionnaire thing might have just. I think honestly, it just might have thrown me off a little bit because I think I took it as. I think I just took it a little different. But now I'm seeing it. If this isn't it, I think it's very close. So I have a questionnaire, which is a questionnaire. So these are all my questions
Yeah.
in a questionnaire.
Okay.
Okay. And so when I respond, I do a post request. So when you start your bookend,
Yeah.
this pulls from this list of questions to start your day. The questionnaire is like the start of your day. You have to answer all these. Well, essentially, you have to answer these questions. Let's just say it's required. All these questions are the questions that you had in your sheet. Okay. So each one corresponds to one. And then we have an order that kind of follows the order of where you had them. That's obviously easy to change.
Mhm.
And then we have what I consider responses, which is our actual bookend process. So these are all of our start of day questions that come out of the questionnaire. And I link back to this question ID so we can quickly reference what that question was. And we build a relationship, right? Each time we bookend, we build a relationship, right? We're doing it. I'm time stamping it so we kind of have an idea of what's going on. And then I'm essentially time stamping all the responses that go in with it too. So there's different lookups we can do. And so the relationship to the end of day, right? So you need to go back and bookend, right? Is in this collection. So it's a different set of questions, right? That are, what did I complete? Can I review my success? And those also get captured in this same bucket, right? So this is your day in totality, or whenever you answer the questions is whenever you ever, you can go back and answer them tomorrow, for example. You would just reference today's bookend. I think, does that sound like the flow you're looking for, or do I really need to go back and add like an actual? And I don't mind doing it. It's just I feel like this connected the dots is close, and I think the relied on piece. I wasn't 100% sure if you actually wanted that defined in here, or if you just wanted it implied that we rely on this question ID for this answer, essentially.
Okay.
Or is
I will need the relies on to exist in this data structure because the
okay.
answer itself, like, so effectively what this would look like then is end of day answers. Question number 1, it's referring back to let's see, I guess this wouldn't exist necessarily in the responses. You don't necessarily care too much about showing it in the responses, maybe you do.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly just in the questions. When I'm displaying the question to the user,
Mm-hmm.
I guess if I want to show them the response as well, what does that process look like?
It's just a GET request, and I just link them for you.
So I can get the beginning of day responses. I can loop through those, determine which answer goes to the question. So yeah, the main thing I need to do then is just be able to tie the end of day questions to the beginning of day, to one or multiple beginning of day questions. Right. So in my UI, I want to show them. Okay, so let's take one example.
Yep.
Okay, what tasks will I complete today, no matter what? That's question. That's beginning of day question. Just look at that question specifically. So let's say it's beginning of day questionnaire. What task should I complete today no matter what? Okay, so now let's go in the UI. It's like they fill that out. They hit submit. Boom. Okay, it's the end of day now. Let's go in. I'd say like they'd go in and they'd see their incomplete bookends or their bookends that are in process, and they'd be able to answer the next questionnaire. And the next questionnaire would be the first question in the next questionnaire is, what tasks did I complete? Which ones did I miss out on? And I would like to show the answer to their beginning of the day question above that question. Be like, here are the tasks you said you were going to complete by the end of day today. Which ones did you do? Which ones did you not do? Choose satisfaction. So that's how the UI would look. That's how I see it looking, at least.
And would that be per question or for the array of questions for the book start, essentially?
Each question could rely on what, and like we choose, right?
Okay.
I want this to be flexible. So it could rely on multiple questions from the questionnaire one, beginning of day questionnaire. But that's what the relies on was for, is so that we can say this question, when we're answering it, pull in the answers from questions A, X, and B, and display them above this one. So we can make an informed response.
Okay. Okay, so these are, so like I took it at, all right, so I think I see it. I think it's close, it's just not linked. I think that relies on, I probably had to comment it out. I'll go back and do that if you want to look at something. It's hard, man. It's like I kind of like I know what you mean, but it's like the flow is hard for me to put. It's hard for me to like. I'm having trouble fully visualizing it. And I think that's the problem because I'm just shuffling the data around at this point. I just have to add the relies on. And I think the problem with the questions like the start of day and the end of day is if I have a whole set of end of day questions and I have a whole set of beginning of day questions, it gets a little crazy. Like if I'm tagging multiple end of day questions to multiple start of day questions. And I suppose if I build that relationship with like the relies on, I suppose that would make that easier.
Yeah. So I would say, like, from my perspective, let's just. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So we're just going to build this. I know we have the ability to be flexible. I know we can do whatever we want, but I like creating data structures in a at least pseudo SQL format, because everything is going to have in data, we're either going to have one-to-ones, one-to-many, or many-to-many relationships. The only three kinds of relationships we're going to have. And so just defining each of them using our vocabulary here. So if we go back and we look, our highest object is a bookend. And then let's just work our way down from there. So we have a bookend, we have a questionnaire, we have a question, response, answer. So we're going to drag this over here, drag this over here. All right, first things first, we are going to create for ourselves bookend. All right, so we have a bookend. The bookend will have multiple questionnaires. Well, my baby is unhappy. Can you? I don't know if you can hear in the background, but she's deaf. She's
very, very. Like I'm so good at tuning it out, man. I can kind of hear it when you say something.
Okay, now I thought there was a way to draw lines between things. Can I not do that? Can I not draw the line? What the?
I know there's a way.
I know there's a way. I did it on my phone. Come on, dude. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted to know. What the heck? How did I do it? Line. There we go. Line. Great. I don't really like that. I thought I could just draw a line between things. Okay, so can I make that arrowhead bigger? More fat? Nope, we're stuck with that. All right, let's zoom in. Okay, so we have a bookend. A bookend has multiple questionnaires. So this arrow is a one-to-many relationship. Every questionnaire is going to have multiple questions. So, okay, so we got our bookend, we have our questionnaires, we have questions. Every question is actually going to have a recursive relationship with itself.
I don't know why this is confusing. I'm just saying. I just hearing you say this, like it's so much more clear now.
It makes so much sense. Right, so every question will be able to relate to other questions in the database.
Okay. Yep.
So they can relate back to themselves. We have a question, and it can potentially, that's the relies on bit. It's like it can relate back to another question.
Okay.
Right, so we have our bookend, we got our questionnaires, we have questions that relate back to other questions in the database.
That's fair. I'm following you. I'm actually following you. I'm making a joke, but
okay. No, yeah, I know. Like
you could see how it could be a little, as you said it, I could see the look on your face of like, okay, it's a little confusing, but I'm following you. The visual is actually a lot easier to follow, for what it's worth.
Making a data model like this has always been better. It's like when we were building software for like national companies in global supply chain, it was like, okay, we always needed one of these.
Yeah.
If we didn't have it, we're like, what are you talking about? Okay, so the next step is response, right? And I'm going to say that a response kind of sits at the same level as a bookend. So if we think of bookend as a data structure, basically this is just all of our questionnaires, right? It's got our questions. It doesn't have any user input other than maybe perhaps if the user decided to create their own bookend, but there aren't any responses or answers in this initial data structure. Then we have our responses, and a response, like every bookend will have multiple responses. So every bookend has multiple responses. And basically a response, I defined it as a bookend where some or all of its questions have an answer, right? And so in the response, we're going to have all of the answers to the questions. This is how I see it. So every question will have multiple, like we're going to relate the question to the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so every question will have multiple answers because we can make multiple responses. And every response will have multiple answers as well that just kind of group all of the answers together. And I would argue as well that there's also a relationship between the questionnaires here as well. So we have the questionnaire is like the answer stores both the question that you answered and the questionnaire that it's a part of, just for simplicity. So if I ever need to query and like just get the questionnaire that it's associated with, we don't have to go through the question to get the questionnaire, something like that. So this is a very simple data structure that I am seeing for bookends based on the Google Doc that we had last week. Thoughts, comments, Val, reactions? What do you think?
All right, so we have a bookend which doesn't hold data specifically. We have the questionnaire, so the questionnaire, and then we have questions within a questionnaire. Can you do me one favor? Just like treat me like a 5-year-old for 1 second.
Yeah.
A questionnaire is not a question, it's a bucket of questions.
Yeah, it's a list.
Okay.
List of questions.
List of questions. We have a questionnaire for a book start, and we have a questionnaire for a book end right now. Is that like in your mind? And so like my book start questionnaire has 9 questions in it, or 7 questions, whatever was on the list.
Mhm.
And my book end of day, I call it end of day just to make it easy on myself, has the follow-up list of questions and responses, right? The responses aren't in the questionnaire. They're linked in the table that holds them. There's just a reference back to, in my case, the questionnaire is the, okay, so I think we're close.
Yeah, I would
I
say your structure already has this response answer, which is perfect. It has 2 collections for questionnaires. I think you could probably collapse that into just one collection that just
uh-huh.
represents questionnaires. It's like
Yep.
everything in here is going to have a list of questions.
Well, so I don't know, can you see my screen?
Here, let me pop it up here.
So
Okay.
so take just for 1 sec. I think this is very close to what you're saying. I just think we're close. We're very, very close. So my questionnaire collection, right? This is my V1, and I am going to add versioning to this for a very, very good reason. Just because if we change this, right, we'll have to have that. This is questionnaire, our first questionnaire that we've built, right? Let's say we had 3 of them, they would still be in this collection, and I would consider this our list of questions that we start the day with. Whether we put them all in here or not is irrelevant. This is right now, as an example, I wrote this just to have like a visual so I could show you the chaos I did. So it may not even want this name. We may want something else for it, but this is a questionnaire with all the questions that you had in your list, okay? So if I wanted to build a second questionnaire, I built endpoints for all this, so I would just do a new post request as an admin and add another questionnaire. It's good. We've got that relationship. The day starts here. I think instead of doing, and so for bookends, your first piece, this is bookends right here. This is a brand new bookend with my questionnaire that I just showed you and my questionnaire that ends the day. And they're linked in the sense that I know my questions came from the questionnaire because I'm linking directly to it. Now, I did a link answered a question. I could just as easily add in here a link to the questionnaire. And that's more of a question to you. Like, I already know where I got this question from, so you could quickly reference that collection. And I think I actually hand it to you anyways. This is more for me. When you do a request, to get this answer, you're also going to be provided the question. So it's obviously you're going to want that. I think just hear me out for once. Like, I feel like if we do our start of day, we reference it to the questionnaire, that gets us pretty close. Pretty close to what you're thinking. At least what I'm seeing on the visual. I think I got to spend a little bit of time making the relationship to the relied on piece. I think will help flush the rest of it out personally. And as for having questionnaire in here and a question in there, I can easily consolidate that. I just did it because I built a relationship in the response/bookend collection to be containing all of the other pieces, but leave it kind of like a, there's going to be a lot of noise that happens in that, right? Because we're storing that, like, kind of that relationship for somebody in there. I think as far as I'm concerned, if I can link those and that relationship exists easily for you to reference, it should cover what you need. I don't think it's missing too much. I just think I did remove the relies on piece because I couldn't understand like exactly, but I guess that would be the last thing. So we can have like question 1, and then question 1 relies on, I'm not going to update it, but relies on these 3, these 3 things. And I don't think that should be too hard to add in. I just think it's just a couple of changes on my side get the model correct, and then we should be in business.
Yeah, I agree. I would still say, like, from my perspective, I think, let's see. Why? Hold on.
You're fine.
Well, that's the second time today that my door is just kind of opened, and I'm curious if I'm just not shutting it all the way or something. I don't know what's going on. So locked it. No one can get in. Okay. So I would still, like, from my perspective, to keep things nice and clean, I would still recommend creating a collection for each of these blue blocks. And
Okay.
here's the reasoning. One, the data structure that you have right now for start of day questions, end of day questions, like, yes, that you could kind of see it as that's how we're doing it, but I also keep in mind as well that we're trying to use this I would absolutely love to use this for any activity. So it's not necessarily start of day, end of day. It's start of activity, end of activity. And that could be this, like what we're doing right now. We bookend beginning and the end of our activity. It could be the day, could be the year. So naming it in that way, in the long term, is potentially
Be confusing.
I would also say it'd be nice to potentially be able to just say, we have 12 questionnaires that we're going to ask ourselves throughout the course of the year. And so we're bookending our year, but we have 12 chapters. And so having just a list, and that we can effectively decide what ends up in that list by just referencing a questionnaire, just having a questionnaire ID, is going to be, in the long term, much more flexible than giving each questionnaire its own, or like locking ourselves into start of day, end of day. So the bookend, I would say, is just, it's got a name, it's got the ID for it, and then it has a list of IDs that reference the questionnaires that will be used in that when someone begins a response to that bookend.
All right. So this bookend specifically, I think I got you now. So I'll remove the references to start of day, end of day. I'll consolidate the questionnaires into a questionnaire. Well, I'll just put it in the questionnaire collection. That should satisfy that. And then responses can go in their own bucket. Answers can go in their own bucket, and I can build the. So we have questions, question, answer, questionnaire, answer.
Yeah. So
we get the reference.
This relationship, I'm kind of iffy on. Like, you could also say that every questionnaire has multiple responses. And so the response would reference its parent questionnaire, or like all of the questionnaires that are part of the bookend. Like a clean way to do this might even be to just have it literally like side by side. I don't know what we would call like the equivalent of a questionnaire, but it might not be necessary to have it. I don't know. Maybe something like this, but I know that a response will reference a bookend, and it might also reference all of the questionnaires that exist within it. In which case, there'd be like a many-to-many between questionnaires and responses, or like every response has multiple questionnaires. So we just flip this around, because the response is effectively a copy of the bookend with all of its questionnaires. So every time they go in and say, I want to answer the next set of questions, I have a reference to it. I can query that set of question, like I can query that questionnaire and all of its questions, and then I can show them the inputs so they can start answering. I hope maybe that wasn't for a 5-year-old.
No, it's okay. I'm a little hazy on so when I store the all right, so questionnaire, I got it. The questionnaire, we're good. The bookend, we're good. I've got the first two big buckets. I have a list of questions built in my questionnaire. Like questionnaire one, we won't even call this daily bookends. We'll call whatever. We'll call it whatever we want. It's got an ID that's easily referenceable, and then we've got this array of questions. Right. This is what you're going to get if you subscribe to this bookend, regardless of what it is. Right. This is the bookend you're subscribing to. It's got just questions in here, right? So the questionnaires just contains the list of questions for the questionnaire. My responses, like, is that like kind of how you? Okay, so I do have question relies on in here. I must have kept it in there for the morning, so we could build that relationship. Although I don't think we would want it in here. We would want it per user because they can have custom, right? They don't have to necessarily. Do they have to follow? Like, do we build that relationship or do they build it?
So the cool part about this structure is that users can create any bookend that they want.
Okay, so it should not be in here. It should be part of what they're tracking, not what we're tracking.
Well, no, it is what we're tracking. Like it is just, it's so okay. Sorry. Don't think of what we're doing right now and what we're building as separate from anything that any other user is going to do. The structure that they will follow to create their own bookends, questionnaires and questions, is the exact same process that we ourselves will follow to create our own. So we just have admin privileges and we can create bookends, questionnaires, and questions that exist for everybody.
Right.
But there is no difference between the process that we follow to create one and the process that the user will follow to create one. It's the exact same process.
So when we do our canned, let's say it's a canned required bookend questionnaire, we build that relationship of what relies on, and when they do it, they can build whatever they want.
Yeah, when they make their own bookends, let's say they have a
then
specific.
We're good then. Yeah. So this stays in here. So we'll build this relationship. So it makes sense to keep this as part of the question because we're going to be building what it relies on for them, essentially, like as a default, right? This is your default, normal, no change. We're going to build that.
Yeah. So it's like, here's a daily bookend that we know, like it's scientifically proven, kind of. Maybe we've done some research on this. I don't know. But here's like a daily bookend that you can use just to get started. And let's say that you use it for a month. And at the end of that month, you're like, you know what? This question in particular, hate it. Doesn't do anything for me. I'm just going to copy the official bookend, remove that question, and I'm going to use my own from now on. And now I can iterate on it. I can make the changes I want to make. I can add more questions if I want to do that. Different ratings. Like let's say I personally have different ways of judging the end of my day and determining if I succeeded or not. Like I have different scores that I give myself. So I'm going to start tracking those. And so we allow them to create their own bookend in these three collections. And then their responses will refer back to like just reference their created bookend, their created questionnaires, their created questions.
Okay. And if they want to share it, they can flip this to true. So it'll become a public bookend, essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I honestly, I think this covers like that left column. Now I need to work on, I'm not saying perfectly. I got a couple ideas of what I could do to clear it up a little bit more, but I think now building the relationship to the follow-up questions, I need to put a little bit more thought into to match kind of how you want. I still think, so what are my responses? So my start, again, not start a day, but whatever. I have an answer to the questions defined in here. I have a rating if we wanted to give it a satisfaction rating. We don't have to use that, right? Okay. I think I have a better idea on how to make this flow a little bit better. I just need a little bit of time to go map it all back out. But is that what I did? It's kind of fuzzy on my screen.
Is this what you did, or
is that's your Dart code? It
yeah,
looks the same as my IDE, and it looks like the same structure as my Python code. It's just different. At least my my models, but yeah. So satisfaction. So bookend. Back. Questionnaire. So I think I just need a little bit more time on this piece of it to link everything, and then I'll spread out my buckets to make them a little bit more not flexible, but to fit better what you're looking at. And I think if I think about it in terms of SQL, it makes a little bit more sense to me.
yeah. And I mean, so the reason I would create it like this is just because while SQL does have, like strict rules,
Mm-hmm.
it's like those rules allow you to arrive at predictable outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that part is very nice. Like if you stick to those rules, it's like you're gonna get something that's relatively clean.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it's like I would like to try and stick to the rules that SQL provides and just think about it in this way. Not necessarily that we need to create a different collection for each of these blue boxes. Like, for example, right now you have all of the questions are just inside of the questionnaires collection. And I would say that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's easy for me to kind of query all the questions in the questionnaire, like that's fine for me, perfectly fine. Like, I don't think we're ever going to just be querying an individual question.
We could, but we don't. It's already built, so you could, or you can reference the questionnaire. So I think we got both of those covered for questionnaires. I think those are in probably the best spot right now, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I would say if you just smash the two collections you have for like beginning of day questions, end of day questions into just questionnaires,
Mhm.
then this and this satisfied. Like it's good to go. I still think creating another collection for bookends that just stores a list of, it's like it's got its ID, it's got its name, that public bool that you were talking about, and it just has your list of questionnaires. So just a list of questionnaire IDs. That's all it has. Nice and simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can just tap on one and say respond or like begin or something like that from my perspective. And then at that point, I create the response. And the response references the bookend. It copies all the questionnaire IDs, and it lets them start filling out all the answers for the questions. So yeah, I think actually something that might go in between these two is kind of like an answer group. Something like that.
I was just taking a picture of it.
Well, I was about to send you a picture of it.
I heard the click, but I was like, I'll do it when you're done drawing.
Maybe this makes sense, having this answer group, because I mean, I'd love to be able to, within the response, be able to query all of the answers for a specific questionnaire. And so this answer group would have the questionnaire ID and would have the list of answers.
And that's what we have right now. We have that relationship right now of the two questionnaires we have. The answers reference the questionnaire, and they reference the individual questions within the questionnaire, if that makes sense.
Okay. And so right now you have this, where the questionnaire, the answer has a one-to-many relationship with questionnaire. Yeah.
Yeah, it's start of day questions. So I need to work on that a little bit, because I think tagging it back to the questionnaire wasn't my intent. My intent was to tag it back to each individual question in the questionnaire, which I do have. I need to tie it back now to the actual questionnaire, and I think that should be very easy to do.
Okay, yeah. So definitely have a reference to, like, each answer should have a reference to the question it's responding to.
Mhm.
And then obviously the question, if I can query the question, has a reference to its questionnaire, which has a reference to the bookend. So I can work up this tree. But I mean, just storing more data so that we can have faster queries, I don't think is a bad thing.
Okay.
I mean, from my perspective, it's like
Uh,
storage is cheap, but computation is expensive.
It is.
So just like having additional information in different places
Mm-hmm.
is not a bad thing from my perspective. So just in the answer, having a reference to the question, the questionnaire.
That's fine. That's just, yeah, that actually is perfectly. I mean, you're talking like the smallest amount of data anyways. I know it multiplies over time, but that actually, to solve the one issue that I'm thinking of, might make my life a lot easier. And then I don't have to change quite as much. The only thing I would ask then is if I have my responses to all of I think there's 7 questions to start, like in our initial example you gave me, the initial questions. There's 7, so I have 7 responses potentially to those 7 questions, right? And then I already referenced the question ID, so as long as I add the questionnaire in there, we should have that relationship right there. It's a little more data, but it's nothing. I mean, and then I don't have to rely on the array. You can look up things by question. You don't have to rely on, because right now it's a bucket, right? Everything's a bucket. I can take it a level deeper, and I think that builds a better relationship for you to be able to work with. Because then you could do whatever you want with it. Then I don't have to worry about what's this go to, what's this a parent of, what this is a child of. It's just built into the response. That works.
Okay.
I
would say like there's 7 answers for the questionnaire. There's only 1 response.
There's 7 answers to the questionnaire, and there's only 1 response.
So just based on like, so I'm calling a response is, and we can wordsmith this a bit better, but like a bookend where all of its questions have an answer. An answer is being an answer to a specific question. So it's like you take one question will have one answer.
Yep.
For every time you respond to that bookend. Which is why a bookend will have multiple responses. Because every day I'm going to be doing my daily bookend. So the questions I'm answering, they don't change. But my actual answers, my response plus answers, those change.
Yep. Nope. That makes. At first, I was unclear. The end of it, I got it now. So we have 90% of this right now, Sterling. I just need to rework it a little bit, and I'll clean it up. I'll try to have all that. I'll actually probably just try to have all that cleaned up before we meet next week, if that's fine. I may stay on for a bit and work on it. I just at least want to map it out so that we're not talking about this next week. I think I can have this in a better working state, so we don't have to drive back. But I know that the foundation of this stuff is data, and I don't want to get it wrong, and it's just converting it. I'm just not used to. I'm used to doing it the other way around, where I'm explaining what we're doing versus taking it in, and it's just a little bit harder for me to translate. That's all. It's just it's a learning thing for me. So I think this will get easier, but yeah.
Well, and I mean, honestly, like I'm okay spending like 8 hours getting the data model right, because if we get it perfect, it's like the better the data is, the faster I can build a UI for it. Honestly.
Yeah, true.
Like hands down. So like I spent, I think, building, for example, building Cadena code. I spent probably 16 hours just building the system that would allow me to incorporate, to communicate with the blockchain and would structure my data going out and coming back from the blockchain and from the wallet. I spent like 16 to 20 hours just on that.
Yep.
I built the UI in like 3 hours.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, I'm okay I'm patient. Don't worry. I don't
Yeah.
like. I'm
I
not.
felt this was productive. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. I felt like this
Oh
was
yeah.
a lot easier. I think maybe a lot easier than last week. I went into it with a little bit of a different expectation, maybe, of like, we're not going to just sit and code the whole time. We
Yeah.
need to have this stuff. And if I'm confused, I'm going to tell you I'm confused. I'm not going to just keep going and say, oh, yeah, it'll work. It'll work. I'd rather have it right. So, no, this is good. I don't want to keep going back and saying, oh, what do you think? I'd like to like have it solidified, but like even for me, I don't know anybody if there's people on listening to this like that follow what I do. I just have my V3 of my blockchain API, which is I can't swear on here, but like that's how excited I am about it. Like I completely redid it. It is perfection. Like stacked components. Like it's documented. I started it with documentation. I added tons of logging, like real logging. I added proper error handling at like the component level, so everything's consistent. So no matter what the endpoint is, it's a consistent experience. Now Python does a little bit better job of that, I think. Just out of the box with Fast API. JavaScript, you have to do a little bit more effort, and I didn't put the effort in initially on V1 or V2 of it, but V3, I'm starting to work on like finishing it. It works great. It's efficient. And the thing is, it's scalable. I can break it up into segments now. It's night and day different. Even though it's the same person making it, by the end, I just got it. And once I got it, it was a beautiful thing, right? You could just see the performance. You could see how quick things. And when you're doing big time hits on this for testing, you can actually see the difference, right? It doesn't choke anymore. It's efficient coding, and so part of that for me was going back and defining my data structure and making sure I followed it. And I have, instead of letting it just go wild now, I'm using a library that forces me, just like we're using in here, it forces me to follow a standard. I can't just do willy-nilly anymore. So to me, it was like that was a big step forward, at least. I'm very happy, but I can't, a couple of people have seen what I'm doing. They're like, it's really, really cool to just kind of build this stuff. And there's a couple projects using it, so I'm kind of excited to get them moved over here soon. It'll be seamless, but it's gonna be fun. I got a lot of fun stuff, and I love this stuff. So anytime, even if it seems like a little bit of a struggle, that's okay. That's how we learn. I don't learn anything from just typing away and having no issues. I never learn anything from that. It's not, to me, it's not as much. It can be fun, but it's not as much fun. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I agree. Good job. Good job getting it all put together. Is yeah, I suppose then that like it's not Scripto, it's Scribe. There we go. Scribe. Are they using your
Yep.
stuff too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They are. So NFT Minter is an endpoint. You just hit that endpoint with 2 pieces of data or 3 pieces of data, pops back everything you need, sign it, you're done. It's so simple. It's meant to be. You can use it in Discord. It does work in there. You can do it anywhere, and that was the point I wanted to make. Was any system can ingest this data. It's just an API endpoint. If you've got an API key, which I have an API key generator now for people, so we can do all that stuff. It's just fun. I've enjoyed kind of the evolution of just watching myself over the last few months, just going back and seeing like my V0 of this stuff. It's a different person. It really is. Just the total understanding of, I'm dealing with 4 databases, blockchain, JavaScript.
Yeah.
The Python stuff, I am backing off a lot of that because I need like a JS on JS is just a lot easier for me. And so that stuff rhymes with me. So now I've got it like down pat. I've been loving working. I work on another project with Python too. So I'm getting it's getting easier every day. But if you wanted me to whip something up in like 15 minutes, I can build a whole setup. Just like you, what you're like most comfortable with. You just kind of okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So it takes time though. It takes time to get there, especially learning kind of some of these new systems with blockchain, and it's not as It's not any harder. It's just different. Just once you realize it's not that different, it actually becomes easier.
I mean, every blockchain follows very similar paradigms. I feel like ledgers that are coming out that don't have blocks are going to
Mhm.
kind of break some of that,
Mhm.
just because they don't have this like they don't have blocks, right?
Mhm.
Hopefully, the systems that where you're just querying information are very similar, where you're submitting transactions are very similar. And so like Shardium, Radix, and Sui are three ledgers. Like I can't call them a blockchain anymore because they don't have blocks.
Yep.
There's validating transactions. And I find that really fascinating, actually. At the end of the day, it's like, wow, that's actually what a good way to approach it. Like proof of stake makes it so you don't need blocks anymore. So why would I have a block? If I just care about does your transaction rely on his? No, push them through. Just do the thing,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
But there's so many other caveats that come along with that. Of like querying information from a ledger now becomes more complex because
Mhm.
it's not like give me all the blocks and then I just
Mhm.
throw the transactions in the blocks. It's no, let me traverse this tree of transactions
Mhm.
and figure out like which one I actually care about.
Mhm.
And then let me
I,
look at all the shards that exist on the planet and all the
yep.
trees inside each of those shards. And you're like, okay, whoa, all right, we have some work to do.
It's a good thing though. It's a good problem to have, but it's I'm glad it's one that I expect you to go figure out and then and then explain to somebody like me of like, well, thinking about it this way, it's actually not that different, and you just have to do these like 50,000 different things. So I'm like, let me just write down all those 50,000 things. I'm like, okay, I got it now. No problem. A month later, it makes sense.
I
So
think
it's yeah,
people will create wrappers as they have their
yeah,
own blockchain actually
yeah.
to enable easy querying of information within these novel ledgers.
Hmm.
They have to. They have to. Like solutions will appear to make it as
Hmm.
simple as possible to the end user. Solutions
Yeah.
similar to the one you've created is for Cadena at this point.
Hmm.
Like just it's a necessity. Nobody's gonna want to recreate the wheel that many times.
No, they shouldn't. It's not efficient. It's not a good use of anybody's time. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm having fun with it, but I think the coolest example is is going to be like how one day I feel like somebody's going to connect everything. Like it's going to happen. Like somebody's going to figure it out a secure way to connect everything, like every blockchain that comes up. Right? Somebody will do it. It'll happen eventually. Um, I would assume. I would assume so. It's just as long as they stay around, somebody's going to have the idea and be like, you know what? I'm bored this week. I'm going to make them all connect, and then they're going to do it, and people are going to be like, he just like did he just do that? And then it's going to spawn up a whole new gold rush for no reason other than to say we did it. So I think that's the cool thing about all of this is it's just kind of like whatever you want to do, just go do it. Like don't worry what did we do yesterday? Oh, I don't know. Let's go figure out what we're going to do today. It's just different. Um it's different. It's kind of cool. It's to me it's a little more fun than uh, looking at okay, this has been done 1,000 times this exact way. I'll copy it. Well, let's do something a little different. So, and we're doing something a little different. So it's fun. This isn't a copy paste of anything. I copied nothing from anybody else's site. So,
Same. I mean, most of what we've done so far, at least for me, has just been discussion. I
yeah.
think I've made a couple of objects,
Mhm.
some models, and that's about it. Like, that's it. Okay. Well, I mean, it's been a pleasure. It's been awesome here. Thank you so much for hopping on. Uh, I think, I mean, I guess the last question that I wanted to ask you is just like, do we want to have this answer group uh, collection in here?
The answer group.
It's like another layer between response and answer. It's unnecessary. This would really just be like a oh we want this because it enables faster querying. Again, like groupings of data and stuff like that. But uh, instead of instead of computing which answers are related to which questionnaire, like looping through all the answers that are received, I can just get an answer group, and then all of the answers in that answer group are part of a questionnaire. And so I don't have to perform any computations. I just know that what I just got back from the endpoint, it's like all those answers, part of this questionnaire. That's it. That's all I need to know. I don't have to compute anything on my side.
So when I store my answers, I'm going to store them with another variable. So I have an array to hold all of those already, right? And you can just drill down into whatever you want. All I should have to do is tag an ID on that response, right? Which I do right now. There's an ID already that you can query that gets you all of your bookends for the day, essentially. It doesn't, because of how I built the relationship, I'd have to change a little bit, but I think that was my intent, was that you could look those up. I think I actually made an endpoint to test that too. So you could get the whole array of questions like as a group, or you could get the individual. I think most of the time you'd probably want, I would think you would probably want the group of answers, would you not, to save
Yeah.
yourself the trouble of
It's like,
like individually asking for those questions seems like a huge resource waste.
yeah, so honestly, most of my queries are going to be up here. It's like
Yeah.
I'm going to be querying for a bookend, or I'm going to be
Yep.
querying for a response and its children. So like
Mhm.
I'll probably query these, and my hope and expectation would be that it gives me back the entire tree.
Mhm.
So if I query a bookend, I get the bookend, the questionnaires, and the questions. If I query a response, I get back like the answer, like all of the answers that have been associated with it up until this point, uh, nicely grouped based on the questionnaires. So like all the questions, an answer group, for example, I answered my list of questions at the beginning of the day. That'd be one answer group. Then I have all the questions I asked myself at the end of the day. That'd be another answer group, all part of the same response.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of what I would expect, is that I can query up at the top here, and it'll get me everything in the tree.
Yep, I just got to change my structure a little bit to account for that. I think I have the data points you're looking for. They're just not the right format. I just got things. I'll just shuffle them around a little bit, add what we talked about, and the nice thing is, I don't know if you got into Mongo, but you're welcome to go in there, and I'll send you a note when I'm done, and you can kind of see what the data structure will look like visually real quick. So when I get a couple minutes to sit down and redo this, it'll probably be tomorrow. At this point, it'll probably be tomorrow or Thursday, but I'll send you a note when it's ready, just so you could double check. And then what I might do is I might just recreate the data structure myself and then work backwards to figure out what I got to change, because I think visualizing it's a lot easier for me. So if I could see what I'm building towards, it's a lot easier for me to build it, if that makes sense.
So that'd be good for me to like build a UI that you can use as a foundation.
Usually I do those two things together. It makes it, because for me, like I said, I'm just a much better visual person. I usually build those two things. I'll build like the framework of the data, and then I'll start building a UI so I can see how I'm interacting with it, so that I can make real-time tweaks.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, if you do that, that will speed up what I'm doing, because then I can see if there's something that's not lining up as you would expect, I can quickly tune it. But I think I'll be very close when I rework this, because I have a much better handle on exactly what you're looking for. And this helped. So when we're talking, this is a good takeaway, is this actually was a lot easier for me to understand, even more so than looking at your data structure. Because I see it, but like the dependencies and stuff, it's a lot, right? So
Yeah. So now at the I'll finish out the vocab
okay.
with all of my objects that I personally am using in each of them. So I'll finish out all of this, and then I guess on Thursday I'm just gonna start. I'll dive into the UI.
Okay.
And I'll start building some UI for you, so you can see kind of how I'm visualizing all of this and how it all kind of comes together.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully that can inform and help you determine how you want to build the backend.
I think that will make it. The most success I've had is when a designer drew me what I was telling them, and then I went and put the components together that fit what they had. Because I'm not a visual person. Like, I'm not a good drawer. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
But others are really good at it. And I'm going to go back and take a stab at this anyways. Because I think, like I said, I think I'll get it really close. I may just have one link that visually I'll have to see, but that I should be able to get us real close. If you can use, even if you use dummy data, obviously that just makes everything easier. So.
Yep. I got you. Don't worry.
And,
got this.
And in fairness, Sterling, when I do my sites, I always do it with JSON data to start, so that I know, like, if I'm missing something, it's just painfully obvious to me. So it could just be I'm trying to, maybe I should have started with that. I guess now I'm thinking about it, but it's too late. I think we're close. I'm not worried about this. This is just moving things around now.
Yeah, I like that. Just starting with the data, starting with JSON data, and then building from there. Then you can iterate pretty quick. Don't have to worry about a back end until your front end's good to go. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm using you know the models in here. I just match them. Like, I just real line by line and match. It's done. It's actually pretty easy. That's why it's so easy to change. So. Cool. Anything else?
Nope. I think it's good. I'll put together some. I'll just get some dummy data, and I'll get it all working in here. I added the answer group with the ID, the response ID, the questionnaire ID, and it's a list of answers. And then we have our answer group ID. Okay. Boom.
Are you using the GitHub for this, the same bucket?
Yeah.
All right. And are you using the main branch? Or did you fork it?
I can make my own branch if you'd like. But up to you.
I don't care. I just want to make sure I grab your changes before I do anything. Although I shouldn't trample over yours anyways. Should be able to pull them, and I can work with that. But if it becomes a problem, we can fork these. I just don't want to. I don't want to trample what you're doing. If that makes sense. I shouldn't, because I'm not touching any of that. But I'll let her pull your file down right now, and I might have already. I don't know.
I need to build my stuffs so that these no longer have errors.
I spent most of my time learning how to fix errors in Dart before I gave up on it. It's fine. It's just different. It's a different flow.
I personally love Dart. I feel like it's the evolution of JavaScript. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good.
It's the best thing ever.
I give it a couple months and you'll find a new next best thing, but I don't think stuff moves that fast.
No, man, I've been stuck on Dart for like the past 3 years now. Yeah. It's still the best UI language and tool that I am. Like, Flutter is objectively the best. If you just compare all the things you can do with it against everyone else, it is objectively the best. I think the only thing I found that it doesn't do, just doesn't have as many libraries for, is charting. Like JavaScript is like J3S or something like that for charting and visuals and things like that. But Flutter doesn't have that. But it's like, okay, how many people like really, really desperately need charts? Not that many. So.
It's one of the pitfalls, right? There's a positive and a negative to everything. Nobody's really got like a complete perfect yet. I think once once React folds in at some point to whatever it turns into, you'll see some improvements on at least on the JS side. But there's certain things, like even when I was deciding like if I want a backend, do I want it in Python or do I want it in JS? Honestly, JS just handles concurrency so well. And some of the stuff it does out of the box is just so nice. Some of the stuff Python does out of the box is just so nice. So I was like, if they could just merge these like little nuances, like it would be the perfect solution, but they won't. They just stick to their guns, and it's crazy to me. Like, I don't know, maybe just different strokes for different folks. I don't know what you say. So, but all right, I'm gonna jump off and take a look at this in a little bit, and hopefully my notes make sense to me when I look at this tomorrow. And hope you have a good rest of the day and fight those errors, man. They come up quick. All right.
The errors will be gone once this command is finished. It just has to. I mean, it auto generates a butt ton of code for me, so it's doing it. It's auto generating my code.
Nice.
Because programmers are lazy. If we can automate the generation of code,
you should. Where you can, you should, and then go check it.
Yeah.
So when you select cat instead of dog, you're like, okay, well, it's should be a dog.
Boom! All the errors are gone except for in the back end, and that's just because these don't return anything yet. So I just return an empty list. These two, and I can push you some code that does cool things.
I like code that does cool things. I do like error-free. I create lots of errors, then I fix them. It's kind of the life we live. I can't ask somebody else to fix it, so I guess I gotta just figure it out. It's crazy how that works, and then you learn, and then next time it's just easier. Yeah, it's crazy how that works.
It's crazy how you learn something and next time it's easier. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't make the rules, but somebody somewhere made those rules. If you take the time to learn it, it does become easier. If you, it's the same thing like the AI tools. They're great, but like if you don't know what you're telling it and you don't know what it's giving you, what do you like? You end up spending more time, and at the end of it, you've learned nothing. And so it's like there's like a good happy medium in there somewhere. Someone will find it. I'm like halfway there to being halfway there. So
I think the happy medium is likely going to be different for every person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some people are going to need to learn through action. Others are going to need to learn through vicarious.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that guy learned that. That guy learned that. That was a stupid thing to do, he said. So let's not do that. And let's get on a track a little easier for ourselves. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, my changes are pushed up.
All right.
So all my code has been generated. Everything, I'll make sure. Let me see. Let me put the answer group in here. Let me put the question and the answer in here as well. So you have all of my data structures that I'm currently working from to build this app. And on Thursday, start building some UI.
Sounds good. That's more fun anyways. Like you can see it. It's just it's more fun. Did you see you got like 2 more seconds? I want to show you something.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, you have to give me just 1 second. I gotta start my server. Let's just take 1 second. I closed it all down so I wouldn't accidentally have it open. You know how it goes. PM. All right, let's see here. All right, share my screen. So what I've been working on is this little bugger. So like, I just did it to visualize because I was like, I think it's all going to work, and it does work to generate an image. I don't know if it's actually going to work right now, but like, this is me now. Check. Yeah. It's like just a really simple tool. I hope it works. That'd be cool. Hey, like I said, I don't make the rules. I mean, if I look like that guy, I'd be happy. But like, you know. So I did. You got to be careful with these things. Like when you, this is me now. Check me out. What is it? Like the AI stuff's getting crazy, and then you can do like no bad picture. Check me out. Like mountain crop. I don't actually know what'll happen if I generate a new. I'll probably just push it down, but yeah, look at that. Look at me. I just spent like 2 cents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like the point is now I got to figure out like my image gallery should have like I know why I didn't pick it up. I put a new requirement in there not to check once that renders, but they're right there. So like it's cool. Like this stuff is cool. Like it's all, and then because I do stuff. Add to collection is creating a collection that you can mint.
Because you do stuff, yeah.
Because I do stuff, and so once we got the design for it, there's going to be a whole design for it. But once I got that, I got the mechanics of it. It all works. It stores my images out on S3. I've got them siphoned off to your user. Connect your wallet, and Bob's your uncle. You just go. So I really like it because it's visualizing the API I built is so cool because it does so many different things simply. You just give it different inputs. Simple. So I just think it's cool. Just like this page took me an hour to do. So anybody could do it. It's not difficult. It's just time and understanding how to do it. So
yeah, the back end and getting all the back end to generate
that takes a little bit longer. That's storing references in a database, security, policies, caching. I've got Redis caching on here. I've got Mongo connected to it. I've got SQL I took out, but I'm going to put that back in. I've got S3 I'm connected to. So I've got like all these parts. Like it's not simple, but it's like a product. You can use it as a product. It stores your images. You can go back and you can now mint those images. I've already got all that built. So it's kind of cool. I think it's a little nifty it'll be a little cool tool. Technically anything could use it. It's not dependent on one blockchain, just the policy to mint. That's all you need. So technically make it work on OpenSea if you wanted to. I'm not going to, but you could.
That's awesome.
This is what I've been having fun with. So
yeah, it looks clean. I like it. I really like it.
It's fast. For all images stored on the internets.
Okay.
It's a little funky, but anyways, enough of that. Tangent. It's just things I enjoy building. So
I gotta go.
All right. Me too.
That looks awesome, dude. Thanks for working with me today.
You too. Look forward to Thursday.
Yeah. Let's fetch and crush this. All right.
All right. Take it easy. Thank you. We'll see you.